And so, I'm reviewing the MCU. All of it. Start to finish. I'm going through the series in chronological timeline order, not release order. Why? Because I felt like doing it that way, and it's fun. Anyway, expect one of these every day or two building up to the theatrical release of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And maybe throw a few quote-unquote non-canonical Marvel movies in there too, just for shits and giggles. Anyway, we'll see. Today, it's Black Widow, the very long in development prequel for one of the MCU's signature characters that was so long in development, by the time it finally came out, it became an afterword rather than a prequel. It stars Scarlett Johansson as the title character, along with Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, and Ray Winstone. The film was directed by Kate Shortland. Let's take a look.
Still fits. Family. Back together again.
You got fat.
It's unfortunate that this came out so much later than it should have, and I'm not referring to the fact its release was delayed by the COVID pandemic. Sure, had that not happened, it probably would have opened well, as all Marvel movies basically do, and its ultimate box office wouldn't have been harmed by the fact it was available to stream at home for a premium. But I'm not talking about its commercial success, which was, all things considered, quite decent, despite what Scarlett Johansson or anyone else says. This movie should have come out years before it did. It should have gone into development shortly after the character made her debut in the MCU, all the way back in the second Iron Man movie, and if not then, most certainly after the first Avengers movie, and then it probably should have come out basically within its proper place in the MCU timeline, right after Civil War. That way, given the way the story eventually progresses within the MCU and all the dramatic developments involving her character, this film wouldn't feel like such an afterthought. It would feel like a vital, character-building piece of a grander whole and would prime you for the future, rather than feel like an epilogue. Because on its own terms, this is actually a pretty good action picture. It has a lot going for it. There's a great opening, which is so good and so rich with promise, the movie never quite lives up to it. Yeah, it sets up a really great family adventure movie that you wish you were watching for the next 2 hours, and then you don't actually get to watch that. But okay, it's not what they did, and one must always look at what you were given, not what you thought or wanted to be given. A fallacy in most modern film criticism, where people spend most of the time whining about the movie they didn't see instead of discussing the movie they did. Anyway, what follows is nonetheless a pretty satisfying meat and potatoes action picture with some cool set pieces and a suitably rousing climax full of the sound and fury you should expect. So I'm not really complaining, not really. This could have been better maybe, but what it actually is, it's not bad at all. Scarlett Johansson definitely holds her own as an action star and carries the film. She's aided by a very strong cast. The highlights are the, as expected, scenery chewing by David Harbour and a star-making sidekick role for Florence Pugh. Meanwhile, Ray Winstone is fine, not particularly outstanding, as a cliched Russian bad guy who walked right out of a Cannon picture from 1985. That's kind of this movie in a nutshell. It won't offer any surprises, but it will get the job done, and while some hardcore action fans might get a bit restless during the occasionally talky lulls, I appreciate that the film takes the time to build and deepen character. I like that this is a comic book movie with some substance. Probably one of the more substantial of the MCU pictures, even if it isn't necessarily one of the best. That brings me back to my initial point. I think its placement on the release schedule is what hurts this film more than anything else. The fact they took so long to get it out there, that any and all relevance it could have had with regards to building up one of the more intriguing fan-favorite MCU heroes was dissipated into something that feels obligatory rather than vital. It's an entertaining, fun action picture, and some of the things it introduces have become valuable additions to the MCU, but as a vital piece and celebration of its title character, that's where it actually falls short. And that's too bad. Hey, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel and share the video. There's going to be some cool stuff coming to the channel, so you're going to want to keep track of it, and I hope you like all that stuff too. See ya.